There we go. Awesome stuff. I'm just waiting for one more connection here. How do we want to do this, Substack? Man, Substack is really sucking. I don't know a good way to do this. I have to use my phone. That'll actually work. Cool. Welcome, folks. First live stream of 2026. We'll get Instagram going here too. Today's topic is going to be New Year's resolutions for developers in particular. So I invited developers who had New Year's resolutions that they wanted some advice on to come join. I had a bunch of people send in stuff to Code Commute, which is really cool. I've already recorded the Code Commute videos for those responses. And so this is just a reminder for all of you too. If you're not comfortable answering on the live stream or you're watching the recorded live stream, if you have questions about software development, career advice, stuff like that, go to codecommute.com, submit stuff there, and I'll do my best to make a video response and answer you. But yeah, super thankful that people did it. There was a bunch of people sort of asking in different ways around like just spending more time building stuff. And I figured in this live stream, if there's people joining in the chat and stuff, if you are comfortable kind of sharing, if you have any New Year's resolutions around software development, that kind of stuff, like feel free to put it in the chat. We'll talk through it. If you're new to these live streams in general, the intention is that they're interactive. So, if you want to ask questions or share stuff, like please do in the chat, and we'll switch over to it. And what I usually do on these is that I go over to my newsletter, which I always remind people, like, no, if you're like, I don't want to, I don't want to subscribe. Don't. That's totally cool. No pressure. It is at weekly.devleader.ca though, and you can kind of read it like a blog. So totally free. The newsletters get archived after a month, and that's really the paid subscription is to access the archive so you can see other stuff. But otherwise, no pressure. And the reason I share that is because I write my newsletter based on Code Commute videos, and the topics are usually from Code Commute, and then we bring those topics from the newsletter over to the live stream and go through them. But that's just the basis for what's going on. So we'll remind you one more time, if you have stuff you want to chat through, put it in the chat and we'll go over it. Aside from other people sharing New Year's resolutions in chat that we can jump over to, the primary thing that I wrote about that I want to talk through is kind of like, what am I going to be looking at this year in terms of my focus areas? I'm trying to do a better job on some things. Some of them are, programming related, developer related. Others are not. So I want to talk through that. We'll see where things go. So let's see. To start off, I guess, I think the one I want to talk through is I wrote down, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I've written about this before. We've done live streams on it. It's not a new topic. And when I wrote about this in this newsletter, it was like I'm trying to remind myself, and that's kind of the goal with this as a, air quotes, like resolution here, is that I think a lot of growth in my life, in my career, has come from being in situations where I wasn't necessarily like fully prepared for. Right? Like if you gave me a checklist of like, do you meet all these requirements? Yes or no? Before you start doing thing X, I don't check the boxes. And then I'm, put into a position where I'm doing thing X, and it's uncomfortable. And it's one of the, like, because it's uncomfortable, we like naturally want to avoid things like this. And the reflection is ultimately that those are some of the best opportunities for learning and getting better and growing. So I wrote down a few of them. Man, I'm watching the Instagram feed and it's like super, super, super choppy. So I don't know what's going on. Hopefully everyone's like feed seems okay. But it's like a slideshow on Instagram, which is nuts. Um, but yeah, I think I wrote down a few things that in my career so far were kind of like these situations where they're uncomfortable, but like you stick with them and then you realize like there's so much growth that comes out of that. So the first one that I wrote down was like literally my first job outside of university. I worked at a startup, and it was in digital forensics. And I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that I did not study or do anything related to digital forensics ever before. So I started work at this company building digital forensics software with literally zero experience doing digital forensics. Right. So this was like one of the first things in my career, at least, where it was like, man, I have no idea what's up with this. I can remember like one of the first meetings I did at work, and this we're talking. There's like when I joined, it was like 7 people, and then a week after, there were like 2 more engineers that started. And I remember we go into this meeting, and we're meeting with the CTO, who was a former police officer and had started building these digital forensics tools. And he said, "Okay, like we're gonna go through some file system stuff." He's like, you guys familiar with like NTFS file systems or like FAT32? And I remember being like, I've seen those words, man, but like I don't know what those are. Like I couldn't tell you the difference. And having this initial experience of like, oh man, I just started work at a digital forensics company, and I feel like I already don't know what this guy's talking about. Like, uh-oh. Um, and so the reality is that being at that company and working in digital forensics, I was there for 8 years. That's sort of a long one, but there were so many times even at that company where I had similar experiences where it's like something has to get done. You're kind of put into the situation, and yeah, it's uncomfortable because you're not an expert. You don't know the answers. You haven't done it, 100 times before. And in each one of those scenarios, starting with almost day one there, it was like there's a lot of growth that came out of that. One of the other ones that I shared in the article was actually around like my career development, right? So for those of you that are new to the channel and stuff, my career after university, I became an engineering manager pretty early on. And I always say to people, like, it's not because it was like, oh, you're the best manager. Like literally was because I was at that startup. And as they started to scale, they said, like, we need some people that can do like team leadership. Like, basically, you seem to be able to talk to the engineers. Are you interested in doing this? And so this is just another good example of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be a manager. I don't know how to lead people. I don't know what's involved with that. And that one thing has led me like, so far in my career to this moment. The fact that I'm, recording a live stream talking with all of you around like what my career and stuff is like, it's literally because of jumping into the deep end on this. Diving into, okay, I guess we're gonna be managing a team now. And so when you get into situations like that, like, no, you don't know what you're doing, but you got to figure it out. Right? If you had asked me at that time, like, you said like, this is going to be really uncomfortable and this is the comfortable path. Like, you probably want to lean towards a comfortable path, but I'm very glad that you kind of took that chance and took that opportunity. Another one that's very related is to what I just said about live streaming is like, I decided one day to turn on this camera. Right? Like that's something I had no experience doing. And I like reminding people kind of a little bit about how I got here doing this stuff is like, it's actually related to engineering management. When I wasn't early on as an engineering manager, I realized like I had this kind of realization that like the way that I was dividing up time was not really great. And I've talked about this and I've written about this, but the idea was really like, I'm spending as a developer, right? I was still like writing code and stuff. I'm basically working 2 jobs and that amount of time as well. I'm either coding while everyone's at work. I'm like helping them out. I'm coding and whatever. Sorry, I'm not coding at work. I am helping people out throughout the day. And then afterwards, when I'm not doing stuff with people, I'm coding. So sorry for the confusion. I'm kind of working these 2 separate jobs. And then I would have periods of time where I'm not really working with people, even though I'm, managing the team. I'm just coding. And then other times where I'm like, oh crap, I got to catch up and like actually work with the team and do like one-on-ones and, do basically get aligned with people. And then I'm not coding. And I kept doing this pendulum swing back and forth. And I realized like, I don't know what I'm doing and I should spend more time trying to learn about what I'm doing. So I said, I basically said, I'm going to start learning in public, right? There's got to be other people. And I'm new to this at the time. I'm like, there's got to be other people that are going through this, where they're an engineering manager that's still coding and they're like, I don't know how to navigate this. And I said, I'm going to start writing about the things that I'm learning. So I started, reading articles every week, trying to share like a digest kind of like a newsletter. I didn't have any subscribers. So I wrote this on my blog. I would write blog articles about things I was learning. And I gave up. I gave up after a few months because I'm like, why am I doing this? Or like, no one reads my blog. Right? No one's reading my blog. No one's commenting on the social media statuses I'm sharing about this kind of stuff. I gave up on it. And it took me 10 years. That was in 2013. It took me until 2023, the Christmas break, like kind of like right now is like 3 years ago. I've been doing this now for 3 years. 3 years ago now, right before I was like, I'm going to change things around. I'm going to start making YouTube videos. I'm going to do 3 videos a week. And I'm just going to see what happens, but I have to stay consistent. The reason, like the uncomfortable part with that is that I like reminding people I am very introverted. For most of my life, I've had a fear of public speaking that goes as far back as to like being in elementary school. And it's like the teacher calls upon the student to like read a paragraph from the book or having to do like presentations in front of the class and stuff. Like, dreaded it, hated it. My least favorite thing in school was presenting or speaking in front of people. And that kind of stuck with me, right, through university. It stuck with me into my jobs. I remember having an internship where as an intern, they wanted me to present to the other engineers on stuff we were building. And I remember being like, I will do anything to get out of this. I can't stand it. But I decided one day I was going to turn this camera on. Right. And the amount of opportunities and growth that have come from just trying to make and share social media content, it's been life-changing, truly. And I mean that like in many different ways. Like one of which is I don't have a fear of public speaking anymore. It took me hundreds, hundreds of videos and many, many live streams to get there. But I've done speaking engagements now, right? Like I don't run away from it being terrified. It's like, I don't mind doing it. I think it's pretty cool. Devin says a little late, but the worst manager I ever worked with was a guy who thought he had it all figured out nice, had read all the books and done the management classes. Management classes, I don't, Devin, you must be lying. That sounds made up because I haven't seen management classes ever. It's awesome that at least there were management classes. But no, I get what you're saying though. It's, yeah, I think I shared something on LinkedIn and well, all social media last night about imposter syndrome. And someone, I apologize because I can't remember who it was, but someone left a comment and said like, hey, it's like the people, I feel like everyone has some amount of imposter syndrome, and the people that don't are the ones that like, they think they have it figured out, but like not really. And you can kind of tell because they seem full of it. So Devin, I imagine that's perhaps what this person kind of seemed like, but Yeah, the honestly, turning on a camera, kind of jumping into like, I'm just going to start making content. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to start, I'm going to stick with it. Uh, been super, super impactful for me. And again, I mean, it's funny to say, but I do mean it genuinely, right? Like, the fact that you folks are here, like tuning into the live streams or checking out content, or I've put out courses and people have said like, hey, like that's been the thing that's helped me kind of get through and really understand stuff. To me, that's, I don't know, that's like super rewarding, and I do really appreciate all of you. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm glad that I turned this camera on one day. Turned it from car photography, not good car photography. I was doing car showing. Like, I have a show car. It's in the driveway. I've shown it on Code Commute, but I have this car that I used for car showing, and I was like, I was posting a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, I got to get my own camera. So this camera that I'm live streaming with is what I bought for taking pictures of my stupid car for car shows and social media. And now I've turned it into like, I'm going to make educational videos. I'm trying to look to see if I have my car anywhere. I don't. It's my entire background. It's like literally on my mouse mat. But anyway, it was a nice purple car. Now it's a black car sitting in the driveway. But yeah, I made the decision to kind of switch over and do this, and it's been really cool. I have a few other examples on here, and they're not all like tech related. They're not all work and career related. And I'm going to share, I'll share two more. The next one is like on, is for work. And really the two teams that I've been on at Microsoft, the two different areas, both of those are examples of kind of jumping into something that I had no experience in. Aside from managing teams, the domains, zero experience. And one of the hiring I really would like to thank the hiring managers that brought me on at Microsoft, but like one of them, I think in particular, his name is Aaron. I really think that I was able to get an offer because of Aaron. And my interview with Aaron was really, I think that he was looking at me as someone who's like, I know that this guy's gonna, like, he doesn't have the experience doing this in particular, but I think he's the kind of person who's gonna bust his butt and try to learn and like do what he's got to do to, to make this happen. And I've never talked to him about this. I don't think he'll ever watch this, but I think from my conversation with him and kind of learning a bit more about him, that he was probably one of the people that was like, definitely, like, we got to get this guy in. And so I started at Microsoft. I was managing, one of the managers for the M365 deployment team. I had never worked at a company that had machines running in data centers. I've never done deployment of services, right? I was building desktop software for almost a decade. I mean, professionally, actually professionally for a decade, including internships. And then outside of that, more years. My entire development experience was building WinForms applications and WPF applications. I spent a long time in C# building desktop apps. And this was the first job where it was like, hey, like, this is something completely different, like in terms of tech stack. And my goodness, the learning, pretty intense. And when I switched teams at Microsoft, it was similar. Like I now manage the firewall, caching technology, and basically routing accuracy and route resolution for our proxy in Microsoft 365. And I had zero experience before joining the team in those areas. And again, when you get into these situations, it almost feels like you're drowning, right? There's so much to learn. The imposter syndrome is at all-time high because you're like, wait a second, like, I don't actually know this, right? But what I do know is how to manage teams and work with engineers. So you stick in these areas, and ultimately a lot of growth comes out of them. So final one I'll share on this. By the way, for folks that are joining the stream, this stream is about New Year's resolutions. I'm talking about one of mine, which is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So I'm just going through a list of stuff that is like my reminder to myself. Like, these are evidence of times in my life where this has happened. And I'll kind of summarize in just a moment, like, what my goal is. But I wanted to invite any of you that are in the chat watching, if you have any New Year's resolutions related to software development or like sort of changes in your career, that kind of stuff, if you want to share them, happy to talk through them. Obviously only if you're comfortable sharing. So I am watching on Substack as well. Substack streaming is broken on the desktop or the website. It's kind of silly. So I have to do it from my phone again. Sent in a support ticket, but we all know how that goes. So, so yeah, if you got anything, please share. The final one that I'll share that's not related to like tech is like, it's probably not obvious just because I'm a talking head on the internet, but for many years I was really into bodybuilding, and kind of like that was part of my personality, right? It was like, that's what I do. You know, every day I go to the gym, I do bodybuilding, I eat the same food every day. It's just who I define myself as. And I ended up, my wife does CrossFit, and if I don't know, for folks that are like into fitness and stuff like that, every different group in fitness has like, you know, memes around it, right? So bodybuilders are just like the people that are, you know, hyper obsessed with like being vain and like eating the same things. And, you know, power lifters they're strong, but they're fat and they're lazy. And CrossFit people just like do all the moves wrong. And, it's like, you know, there's memes for all of it. And so I never saw myself doing CrossFit. I thought it was, you know, I learned over time, like realistically, I'm like, it's not like CrossFit people are stupid or something. It's just that that's not for me. I'm not interested in that. And as I get older, and my wife, you know, she does CrossFit, I said, I think it's time that I have, like, this was me getting myself to do something uncomfortable. CrossFit is all of the things as a bodybuilder that I am bad at. I am not good at anything with a high heart rate and running or whatever. I'm not good at doing things fast. I'm not good at, there's nothing wrong with eating the same things, Devin. I mean, like literally I would eat ground beef and rice like 3 to 4 times a day, every day, for like 10 years. And, I don't know, like some people not okay with that. For me, I'm like, I love those things. I also realize I'm going to go get checked, but I think I probably have ADHD and that's part of it, but it's a different story. We'll give an update on that later. But yeah, I switched over to doing CrossFit, and this was a intentional decision of like, we're doing something that's going to be wildly uncomfortable. And it has been, and I'm still terrible at it. I'm absolutely terrible at CrossFit, but I go in there regularly, and every time I can see myself improving in some way, which is really cool. They did a strength competition, like just for fun for the gym. And I'm sorry, I know that this is about tech and software development. We're just live streaming. It's the first one of the year. They did this strength competition, and the first 2 movements were Olympic lifts. I'm terrible at Olympic lifts. Been going to the gym for over 2 decades, and I don't do Olympic lifts. But the other 3 movements were like powerlifting moves. So bench, squat, and deadlift. I can do those things. So what was really funny is for the Olympic lifts, I went out, and I'm very, very bad at them, but I haven't been doing them for a long time. Every single lift, including in the warm-up, I ended up hitting a personal best, which is really funny, but just goes to show you that like I hit on one lift, I hit 4 personal bests in a row. Right. And the point being, not to brag about how terribly good I am at Olympic lifting, because it's very bad. The point being that these are opportunities to get better at things. Okay. And so to summarize this whole thing, my goal this year is to lean more into this, because I definitely spend I don't know, like a lot of mental energy being like concerned about that. Right. Despite all of these examples where I'm like, if I reflect on it, I'm like, man, like every single time it's worked out really well, it still scares the crap out of me. And so this year I wanted to be a little bit more conscious about like, hey, like stop running away from that because it's uncomfortable. Like maybe it's time to like to do that, because it's only going to seem uncomfortable like every time you think about it. But once you start, it's probably going to be pretty rough, but it's going to get better. And so that's for me, like one of the major things I want to focus on this year. Okay, let's get over to some technical stuff. I know everyone's favorite topic. Any guesses? Any guesses what the favorite topic that everyone has is? That's right, it's AI. Everyone loves AI. No one's exhausted from AI yet. How many people drop off the stream when I say that? Let's see. No, but I wanted to have a bit of intentionality around AI for this year. And so I use AI a lot. And so it's not like, hey, this year I'm going to start. One of the things that I tried to do in 2025, and I feel pretty proud of myself. I stuck with it. At the beginning of 2025, I remember when people were talking more and more about like writing software with AI, I was trying things out and I'm like, man, like, yeah, like ChatGPT can, get a small program together, can do a script or can build out some classes. Yeah, I try out Copilot or I try or robot overloads. My chat's not showing. Guys, my chat. There we are. Sorry about that. I'm just saying things and you can't see that Devin's typing them in the chat. Sorry, on Substack, you can't see the shared chat. My apologies. I remember, at the beginning of the year, it was like I just was having really bad experiences with using AI to build. And it felt like, I don't know, like I really benefited from sort of the autocomplete style of Copilot. Like it was really just, better autocomplete. At the very beginning, it was so bad that I was like, I have to turn this thing off because it would do the thing where it's going to autocomplete. And it was always like the most nonsense garbage. And then I guess over time, like it got more familiar with my code base or like had indexed it properly. Really enjoyed it. But to go build stuff, I was like, man, this is so trash to go like, be hands off and let AI go build stuff. And I just remember telling myself, like, don't give up on it. So every time you're turned off from it because it's doing a bad job, cool, lesson learned. Maybe try a different tool out. Maybe take note that this, how you're approaching things or this type of task maybe isn't a good fit for AI yet. And I think that was the key word, was yet, because what I tried to make sure I was doing a lot of last year was like, exploring, trying things out, hit a roadblock and going, okay, roadblock acknowledged, let's pivot, but not trying to write it off. Okay. And I think that's the thing that I want to focus on this year, is like continuing that, first of all, is like not writing things off. But now that I've been finding my groove with how I build things using AI, I'm a little bit nervous that already I'm going to start getting complacent. And I realize that maybe sounds kind of ridiculous because the tools change. Like since I've been streaming this video, there's probably, 10 new models and 10 new IDEs for everyone to go use. And they're all VS Code forks, but it moves so fast. But I think what I've started to notice is that I'm finding a workflow that works for me and getting pretty comfortable, and that's good. But at the same time, I don't want to go, a new tool comes out and I'm like, I don't need that. Like I got it figured out. I know I can't try every tool. I'm not going to be an expert in every tool. Not every tool is going to survive, but I want to make sure that I'm still exploring, and being curious, because I feel that last year that worked really well for me. That's why I said I am actually proud that I stuck with that and didn't just get frustrated and say, screw it. You know, AI is not ever going to be a thing. I said, let's try it. Let's keep going. And I think, you know, we're going to keep seeing more and more stuff come out. And I just want to keep an open mind to make sure that I'm trying some new things and seeing where we get to with AI. So might like to get a little bit more specific. My current flow, I do a lot of .NET development for folks that don't know. My main channel is Dev Leader. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the Dev Leader podcast where I do interviews with software engineers. If you're coming from like Twitter and stuff like that, you probably see a lot of .NET articles and stuff I post. If you're on LinkedIn, you get a mix of everything. But depending, you know, where you know me from, you may not know, but I do a lot of C# and .NET development. And so Visual Studio is my home base. Like, I need to program in Visual Studio. Even VS Code is like, it's not quite right. So I like my familiar tools. Visual Studio is like where I will build almost everything. With that said, my typical workflow is kind of like the following. So if I'm doing hands-on coding, and so there will be a lot of that, I code every day. So I go in Visual Studio. Unless I have something very specific that I'm just going to go do because it's quicker for me to go literally code it than it is to try and explain to AI. For more advanced things, I usually have a conversation with Copilot and do that in Visual Studio, and usually like have a lot of context for what I'm trying to get done. So whether it's a bug fix, feature development, but when I'm in Visual Studio using Copilot, my literal intention is not to go hands off and walk away. It's pretty rare. I'm usually pretty like hands-on or truly treating it like one of us is a co-pilot. I guess while it's doing the work, I'm the co-pilot, but I'm babysitting it, right? I'm watching what it's doing and I'm trying to figure out, where do I jump in to go help this thing? Where do I stop it? I notice that it's going down a path and I didn't want it to do that. Like, I'm paying attention and letting it work. There are situations where, like, say I get to a point, a good example is like with tests and stuff like that. So say it wraps up all its work and it has some tests in place. I go run the test, they all pass. I'm like, cool. Checking out, like looking through the code changes. Sometimes I'll go over and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like the way that it structured the tests, it is, I'm just making up an example. It's basically resolving a dependency the same way across 20 tests, but like it's not the pattern we use in the code base. It's not that it's wrong, like it's working, but it's not my preferred way to do it. And now we've introduced like a new pattern, and I don't want that. So sometimes I'll just say, like, Copilot, go make this change. And depending on how complex it is, like, I will just let it go off and do its thing. And then I'm, you know, checking social media, I'm doing some other stuff, and I'll come back and poke in on it. But it's pretty rare that at my desk, I'm just letting AI go off completely unsupervised. Okay, so I use it while I'm coding and kind of take turns back and forth. But Copilot does do most of my work. And yeah, Devin said in the chat, I've been very surprised by how well the auto model selection in Copilot works. Yeah, Devin, are you using it in VS Code, in GitHub, or in Visual Studio? Just curious. But yeah, I really do like Copilot. But that's what I just described is like one of my workflows, but my favorite one is this. So I never thought that I would say this, but I code a lot from my phone now. And code is a interesting word to use here, because when I say I code from my phone a lot, I don't actually code. I do most of my truly think most of my development work from my phone now, or something that could be done on my phone. And that's using GitHub Copilot, like in GitHub. So, I very, very frequently, and I've made YouTube videos on this. I should probably try and pull one up or something. That's probably what a good streamer would do, right? But yeah, I have a video on this, but my flow is basically like GitHub Copilot has GitHub has GitHub Spaces. It's this one here. One sec. Let me get my screen and stuff shared. We'll do it the right way. You can see my dumb face. Devin says both Visual Studio. Oh yeah, both VS and VS Code. Yeah. So what Devin said is more towards Visual Studio, like the big bad Visual Studio, the full-on Visual Studio for like C# development, VS Code for front end. 100% the same way that I build Brand Ghost with my team. Like if I'm doing C#, it doesn't make sense for me to be outside of Visual Studio. I don't know why I would, personally. It's way more familiar for me, but VS Code for front end stuff. Give me one sec. It's going to be faceception. Look at this. Oh, this way it's mirrored. This guy right here. Right? That's me. Let's look at that stash. That's a good stash. Okay. This video, and I should get the link in the chat, I actually walk through one of my workflows in particular. And so, aside from my stupid face, no, it's not even this one. Oh man, I put the wrong link in there. Don't look at that. My videos are out of order. Oh, I was on the For You list. One sec. It's this one. Okay. That's the pirate eye, right? You know what's really funny? Side note. Sorry, Substack people, you can't see what I'm sharing. I gotta stop it on that. If you're on my YouTube channel, the video is called "Here's How I Use GitHub Copilot to Build Features," and so this is how I actually do a lot of feature development, and I can do it from my phone, which is super cool. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. This is GitHub Spaces. And if you haven't used it, I love GitHub Spaces. The reason I love it is because one of the ways that I like to develop is like, I still find ChatGPT is so good, at least for me, for talking back and forth when I want to like brainstorm and design things, high level, conceptually. The reality is that when I'm trying to get more serious about what I'm implementing, like, okay, let's take these concepts into like something real. ChatGPT is not good for that, because unless I'm building something completely from scratch, it's not going to be useful. I need my code. And I find that GitHub Spaces does such a good job with this, because it's like ChatGPT, right? You just have a chat window, but you can pull in different repositories. And so when I'm working on Brand Ghost has a front end repo and a back end repository. And so what you can do is in your Copilot chat, you can say like reference these sources, and those sources can be repositories. You can add files and stuff as well. So I love working in GitHub Spaces. And in this video, again, if you're on Substack, if you want to check it out, it's just on my main YouTube channel called Dev Leader. And the video's titled, "Here's How I Use GitHub Copilot to Build Features." And I just walk through, like, it's a real example. I had a user from Brand Ghost. I'm not sure how many people use Tumblr, or even how many people have heard of Tumblr based on ages and stuff like that. But Tumblr is a social media platform, and you can post stuff there. And Tumblr allows you to have their blogs, is what they're called, and you can have multiple blogs on a Tumblr account. And I didn't know this. And I've used Tumblr many times before. So a user said, hey, we want to have multiple blogs for one Tumblr account. Like, can we do that? And I checked the Tumblr API, and this is what the video shows. I checked the API. The API says yes. And I said, okay. So I went over to GitHub Spaces, and I had this conversation with it. And so what I'm showing in the video is like me going back and forth with GitHub Copilot, talking about hey, like there's a pattern in the code base for this other social media platform. I want, I want to tie this together the same way. Like here's the Tumblr API, and I go back and forth with it. It ends up making a GitHub issue. So if I jump to the end of this video, sorry, it's kind of like behind my head in the chat and stuff, but like it's made this GitHub issue at this time in the video I'm reviewing it. And then the follow-up video, if you do watch this at the end, it links to another video, and I'm showing you like the pull request that it made. And so genuinely, I do this nonstop from my phone, nonstop. It doesn't always work perfectly, but I get so much done this way, because if it doesn't work perfectly, it's like it's at least 80% of the way there. I have two huge feature changes, one huge feature and one sort of like refactoring to leverage a new type of framework in Brand Ghost. And the first one was like, I actually used Claude for this in the beginning. Then I had GitHub take it over. I used Claude in their web view. Like if you go to claude.com/code or whatever it is, you can use a similar interface. I don't think it's as good personally, but for people that like Claude, it's the same idea. And so kicked off an agent that way. If you're watching this, if you know how to get Claude in their cloud environments to use .NET, please let me know, because it does not work for me. Anyway, Claude did an okay job, but it couldn't finish it. And it couldn't finish it because it can't use .NET to build. So it had a bunch of crappy code. So I gave it to Copilot to complete. And this was a really complicated change, because this was an entirely, I want to explain this in a way that makes sense. I need a workflow system that I can chain together different actions in a generic way. And I had Copilot and Claude go build this. And really the only thing that it didn't get right was like, I don't know, some of like where it put the files in terms of like which projects had what and stuff. But ultimately a lot of the logic and stuff was really good. And then I just kept iterating to get better test coverage. But this drives so much of my development flow right now. And I see there's a question on YouTube, just to wrap up on the AI stuff. The way that this all comes together for me is that a lot of the time, I have Copilot, like I just showed you, going off and doing work in the background. So at any given time, I usually have like a handful of things being built that way. That way, as I'm coding with Copilot on my desktop, if I run into something where I need Copilot, I'm like, okay, like Copilot, you got to go refactor this stuff. I'm going to go check social media, whatever. I also go review the code that Copilot was doing in the browser for me, and then come back to that. So yeah, it's crazy powerful compared to what I was doing before. So really enjoying that. And to wrap up this thought on AI, if there's other tools, right, like the fact that Claude does have their web runners and stuff now, great. It's not working for me because I can't use .NET. But I think that's probably a me problem. I would still love to continue to explore it. If, Claude is the only tool that's going to let us do like multi-agent stuff in the same session, like, great. I'm not married to GitHub. It's working really well for me and I'm happy with it, but I would love to keep exploring new stuff. And that's my goal this year, is to not be complacent with the AI tools, but to keep challenging myself to try and continue to explore and learn. So that's resolution number 2. Scarmarie, not Scarmini. Sorry, I got Pokemon on my mind. Scarmarie7 says, I have an unrelated question. What would you do if you work as a contractor, the company changes the payment policy, you don't agree, they terminate you, and you don't want to pay you some time you worked? I would talk to a lawyer, probably, to be honest. I've never been a contractor, but I would go talk to a lawyer. The tricky part when you get involved with lawyers is that Lawyers cost money unless you know or have support from some place or whatever that doesn't. Most of the time, the big challenge with having to go talk to a lawyer is you're going to have to start paying out of pocket. So in the worst case, I shouldn't even say the worst case, in the middle case, you pay a lawyer, they review what's going on, and they're like, sorry, like you're out of luck here. And then like you just lost even more money because you paid a lawyer, but at least you have closure because they've told you legally this was what's up. But in the best case, like if truly it's not the right thing, you might be able to go get that settled. Whether the company pays you and what the legal system does around that, I can't comment. But if you want my personal advice on this, if you are terminated and believe you're owed money based on an original agreement, and you believe that that original agreement is a legally binding thing, then I would talk to a lawyer for sure. That is what I would do in that situation. If you're looking at the amount of money that you could be owed and it's a smaller amount of money, small is going to be different for everyone in different situations, especially because I have no idea if you're talking about, a year's worth of work or something. I don't know. Up for you to decide. If you're looking at that and you're like, that's really not that much, but it really bothers you, it might not be worth it because you're going to be paying a lawyer plus you get, I'm exaggerating, then you get your $20 payout and you're like, okay, I got my $20 payout and paid $500 an hour to a lawyer. So you'll have to kind of get that balance, but my recommendation is talk to a lawyer. That sounds like something that you'd need some legal representation for. Hope that helps. Sorry, it's not like I don't have a great answer aside from, talk to an adultier adult. I am not the adult for that, unfortunately. Okay, and I'll give one more call. I'll do two more calls, I guess. A call for if you have other resolutions and stuff that folks want to talk through, or if you have other questions, if they're not even related to your New Year's resolutions, if you have anything that you want to chat through on the live stream, just drop it in the chat. Like, please, like I said, I'm ignoring Instagram. My bad. Not anymore. If you have questions, comments, whatever, leave them in the chat. We'll jump over it and spend some time on them. As folks are doing that, my final resolution, and this kind of ties into like doing the uncomfortable thing. If you watch Code Commute or you kind of look at some of the behind the scenes stuff that I've been doing aside from just like making software engineering content, I talk a lot about Brand Ghost, right? Brand Ghost is the social media cross-posting and scheduling platform that I build outside of work. It's really interesting now. It's like all with AI, it's like everyone's building cross-posting and scheduling apps. And I'm like, it's not hard to go build the basics for, but like there's a lot going on when you start adding a lot of things to it. So that's what I build. It is a business. We do have paying users. We did 50,000 social media posts last year and added hundreds of users, which is really cool. But if we want to keep growing, like I recognize the way that we're operating doesn't work. And when I say doesn't work, I mean, it continues to work the way it is, but that's not what I want. I want to be able to grow it. And so things have to change if we want that to happen. And that means that I need to spend more time doing things that I'm not currently doing. So, Nick, what does that mean? That means I have to spend more time creating content for Brand Ghost. And so, kind of to come full circle on some of the stuff I talked about, right? Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't feel super comfortable, trying to be like a salesperson, right? I get shy. I'm like, I build this thing that I'm really proud of, but it's kind of, I don't want to ask for your money kind of thing, but I think it could really help you. So like, I'm shy. I need to do a better job at that. In terms of cold outreach, I've been saying this for a long time now. Like, I'm super uncomfortable doing it. I feel awkward, feel slimy. but I have to do a better job of that. But one thing that's worked really well for me that I'm not doing with Brand Ghost is content creation. You're watching a live stream, right? You're watching a live stream of me talking about historically, like my software engineering, right? Career stuff. I'm obviously on this stream, we're talking about some New Year's stuff. I'm giving you some other insights into things, but what I have not been doing a good job of is making content for Brand Ghost. And so that has to change. So I'm not going to stop making content for Dev Leader, obviously. I'm probably dialing back some of the creation, right? So my goal when I started 3 years ago was to do 3 YouTube videos a week on Dev Leader. I have gotten down to probably 1 to 2 right now. I mean, over the holidays, it dropped to 0. So it's usually like 2 is the minimum I'm trying to do. And I want to keep that, but I think it's probably realistically going to get down to 1 video per week on Dev Leader. And that's the reality of it. Code Commute is set up in a really interesting way because I film videos while I'm driving. Microsoft has a more, it's still hybrid, but some return to office coming in February. So I have 1 more day of the week I have to drive into work. So Code Commute's not going anywhere. I'll still have at least 5 videos a week, which is funny because that's Code Commute alone is more videos a week than when I started 3 years ago. But I need to start making videos for Brand Ghost. I need to start writing newsletter articles and blog posts. So this is me saying, like, I need to take some of the experience and skills that I've built in one area and go apply it to another. And it's going to be uncomfortable and I'm kind of nervous about it, but I need to do it. Right. And I need to remind myself, like, I've built and will continue to build a software engineering audience. And I will, like, there's a brand, I'm not going to sabotage this one. There's a Brand Ghost YouTube channel. There's Brand Ghost social media accounts. There's a Brand Ghost blog. There's a Brand Ghost Substack. So, like, I will use Brand Ghost itself and I will start creating more videos and content for that kind of stuff. And I will be doing the marketing for Brand Ghost. So yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be a year of doing stuff that makes me better. So that's mostly it from me and my resolutions. I realize that not all of them are technical for me. The AI one is probably the more technical one. The doing uncomfortable things is really like a career philosophy kind of thing. And then the really big one outside of that is just more Brand Ghost focus. There's a lot of stuff to do that's not just coding, and I have to do a better job on that. Scarmarie7 says the amount of money may not be worth an attorney. Yep. Company ignores emails and annoyed not being paid for work. Would you expose a company on the internet? Thanks, Devin. Take care. Honestly, like, I think Scarmarie, my response to your question is the following. So Scarmarie is asking if I would expose the company on the internet to warn others. What I would say is, like, consider what your motivations are, because I think it's, and I don't mean this in like a condescending way or anything like that, because I get that, like, rightfully so, you're pissed off, right? You weren't paid, you believe you should be paid. So I just want to acknowledge, totally get that. I think that it's easy to say that your intention is to warn others. And I bet you, if you were to write, whatever post or whatever that you plan to do to help warn others, if you were to stop before you press send and read it, what it probably actually looks like is that you're attacking them, because rightfully so, you feel bad. So you're trying to put them down. So instead of it being a warning, it comes across more like an attack on them. And so I would just caution you that I suspect in your situation, because you're upset with this company, trying to warn other people of them may come across as like, you know, being sour about it versus doing a good job warning people. So what's the goal? I don't know. In this case, I might say like if they're, you know, if it's not worth the amount of money for an attorney, okay, drop that. Are you trying to warn people? Okay, but what are you going to write? Because if if your evidence for supporting that is all these things that you're mad about them for, like that's kind of attacking them, and it's going to feel probably pretty good because you're like, I'll show them, but I don't know if it's actually going to be helpful. Okay, so that's my honest opinion on that. You don't have to listen to anything I'm saying, but if you asked, that's my honest opinion. So reality is, regardless of what you decide to do, I do hope that you know, in the future you have better experiences with that. That's really, really crappy, and I'm sorry they had to have such an experience because it's unfair, and I don't think anyone deserves that. So okay, folks, it's the end of the hour, the top of the hour, as some would say. So this is usually where I go over some of the things I got going on. So I know we spent a lot of time doing that already, but this is Dev Leader Weekly. I'll put the link in the chat again. How weird is that, right? That's a live stream of me. But weekly.devleader.ca, Substack folks, you are already there. My YouTube channel, bloop, there we go. This is Dev Leader. This is the main YouTube channel. You can see that I accidentally picked this video because I thought it was the one, but it's not. I wanted this one. But yeah, I done a few videos recently on AI development. These last two, or if you're a .NET developer, I was showing how I build Roslyn analyzers. And Roslyn analyzers are like, for those of you that aren't familiar, they're like linting rules, but pretty powerful. So you can basically put more rules in place to keep your agents from building stuff that you don't want them to build, because they'll write the code and then it won't compile, even though it's technically legitimate code. It's rules to stop them from doing that. So there's that. I have a couple of other YouTube channels, and honestly, I haven't published them recently, and I apologize. Just a little bit hectic. So one sec. This is the Dev Leader podcast. So if you're watching the live stream on YouTube right now, that's where this is. I have one more podcast to go upload that I recorded at the end of last year. Just a little bit behind on that. Yeah, this is where I interview other software engineers, and I have every person that comes on, I ask them to talk about their career journey. That's sort of the requirement. Otherwise, after that, they can kind of talk about anything that they're interested in. So there's that. I have Dev Leader Path to Tech, which is my resume review channel. And oh man, look at that thumbnail. That's a good thumbnail. Right? Like, look at that. That's something. I can't take any credit for that. That's my awesome editor. But yeah, Dev Leader Path to Tech, I have resume reviews. I honestly think that I have a couple of resumes waiting on me right now, and I really do apologize. But this channel, you can submit resumes and I review them for folks. I have had people that have emailed me after or messaged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, like, thanks for the review. I made changes and got interviews. I don't take any credit for that. I think it's probably, they just had a chance to go review things to make it more clear, and you know, they did all the right stuff. I don't take credit. So last channel, because I got a bunch, is Code Commute. This is the inspiration for the newsletter articles and then the live streams. So you can see, yes, was in pirate mode on Code Commute as well when my eye was having some issues. By the way, thank you for a lot of people that were concerned. I do appreciate that. It was just a sty, but it was like kind of unsightly. Like, I didn't even want to look at it. So I'm like, I need to make these YouTube videos. I'm going to cover my eye. The really funny part about that, and this is like a silly content creator thing. people were seeing the eye patch, and any video that I put out with an eye patch on, like any short form video, the retention curve is way better. It's hilarious because people are like, why has this guy got an eye patch on? So they automatically watch a little bit longer. When it's just my stupid bald head without an eye patch, people don't care. They want the eye patch. So maybe I'll bring it back full time. Just be that guy with an eye patch for no reason. But yeah, that's Code Commute. So for folks that are interested on Code Commute, it's basically a Q&A channel. So you can go there, leave comments on any video. I go through the comments and you can ask questions and I'll make a whole video for you. If you're not comfortable asking in public, my face is so itchy. What's going on? If you're not comfortable asking in public, you can go to codecommute.com. I should just pull it up because there's a page there. Actually, I'll just show you. It's over here. If we click on the newsletter article, I put a screenshot on the contact page. There's just a spot that you can submit a question and you can check off submit anonymously. And then that way I just get an email. It says it's from me and you can put, any questions that you want help with and I'll make a video for you. If it's anonymous, I can't send you the link to the video. You have to check the channel and look for it, unfortunately. But I do appreciate people that send in questions, and people have had follow-ups where they'll message me on social media and they'll say, hey, thanks for answering my question. Like, I got another one. So really, really cool. And I do appreciate everyone that's kind of connected with me over time on that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about Brand Ghosts very briefly because I know you're probably sick of hearing of it from this stream already. Brand Ghost is the social media cross-posting and scheduling platform that I build. The entire goal with Brand Ghost is trying to get people to a point where they can publish content consistently. This all stems from the problem I said I had originally over a decade ago, where I started trying to share content online and I was getting frustrated at the amount of time and effort that was going into sharing stuff on different social media platforms was so much and I wasn't getting any traction and I just gave up. What I want people to realize is that there isn't magic into what's going on here, right? Outside of software development, this applies to anyone. If you've been doing stuff for a while, you probably have interesting things to share with people, right? I am not some, magic engineering manager or like Uber developer or whatever. I'm just a dude who's been an engineering manager for a while. I've seen some stuff, proud of what I've done, and I'm happy to try and share different things with people, right? If it helps you in your career, I'm happy to have those conversations. So like what I'm doing is not special. The part that's special is that I keep doing it, right? And like, that's boring, but like, that's the only secret. So you have to keep showing up every day. And most people, including me, give up on it because it's not sexy. It's not exciting. You don't post your first video and you're like, oh my God, I had 10 million followers and I can retire from life and just, code video games on a beach, sipping pina coladas. Sounds like the dream. It's not how it works. And right, you'll see other people who their first video was very successful and then it's even more discouraging. You're like, why do I even do this? You just keep showing up and you keep doing it, right? It will get better. It'll get easier. And I build Brand Ghost so that people have an easier time getting over that. Because if you can make the content, at least make the content, you put it into Brand Ghost, I'll make sure it gets everywhere it needs to go. I rely on Brand Ghost for all of my content. I do hundreds of social media posts per week. Like I said, we did over 50,000 last year. Brand Ghost is to help you be consistent with your social media. And I love building it. It's so much fun. And I think that's it, folks. I'm not even going to advertise courses. If you want courses, go to dometrain.com. I got a bunch of courses there. But thank you so much for being here, folks. I wish you all an amazing start to your 2026. And I will remind you that we do the live stream every Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific. So I hope to see you next week. Take care.